Hey now, Adam.
Hey, what's up, Sitch?
So, as you know, and viewers of our channel probably know, there recently was a big congressional hearing where the various heads of Ivy League schools were dragged before Congress to answer why they were allowing anti-Semitic protests to happen on college campuses. And when these presidents of these Ivy League schools were asked directly, does advocating for the genocide of Jews violate the student code of conduct? They gave a convincing maybe, maybe not.
Right, yes. Context dependent, I think, is what they said.
Yeah, people were not very happy, understandably, with that answer. And so there's a lot of calls for these presidents to be fired slash resign. And one of them, the president of Penn, already ended up getting fired slash resigned. And now people have been really trying to push for Claudine Gay, the president of Harvard, to be fired. And so far, she hasn't been, at least for her hearing. But now Christopher Rufo and several others have been looking through her academic work and have found that, it looks like she might have plagiarized multiple sections of other people's work for her work, including in her thesis.
Wow. That's bad news, right? That's like cheating.
I mean, listen, just ask H. Bomber guy, okay? He's going to make a 4-hour video about this, obviously.
Doubtful, but...
It's doubtful. It's a big deal. Colleges take this stuff very seriously. So let's see. And now I'm curious. Let's see how Brianna Joy Gray responds to these accusations of plagiarism. You think that she will respond to it just directly? Or, do you think there's going to like a whataboutism in our future? What do you think?
Well, since Brianna Joy Gray is the queen of whataboutism, I'm guessing that that's going to be the direction she goes. It seems these days whataboutism is really all she does. So,
okay. So let's find out.
Shocking new reporting has emerged for a potential plagiarism scandal surrounding Harvard University President Claudine Gay. Conservative writer Christopher Rufo wrote on X that Chris Brunette and he have obtained documentation demonstrating that Harvard President Claudine Gay plagiarized multiple sections of her PhD thesis, violating Harvard's policies on academic integrity. According to Rufo, Gay lifts an entire paragraph nearly verbatim from a paper by Lawrence Bobo and Franklin Gilliams while passing it off as her own paraphrase and language. This is a direct violation of Harvard's policies that say, quote, when you paraphrase, your task is to distill the source's ideas in your own words. If your own language is too close to the original, then you are plagiarizing, even if you do provide a citation.
In other parts of her paper, Gay allegedly appears to take material from scholar Carol Swain, one passage summarizing the distinction between descriptive representation and substantive representation. She copies the phrasing and language nearly verbatim from Swain's book, Black Faces, Black Interests, without providing a citation of any kind.
How angry do you think Brianna was? They're like, listen, you have to also read these Christopher Rufo tweets. It can't just be Robbie. You gotta help read the story.
Well, you can tell in her voice that she's not very happy about reading this.
Yeah, she does not seem very excited about reading these tweets.
Definitely downplaying it.
Yeah, this is the tone of her voice.
Rufo writes that she also reportedly puts together an entire appendix in her dissertation taken from Gary King's book, A Solution to Ecological Interference Problem, while she cites King's book later in the appendix. In fact, King was her dissertation advisor. Gay does not explicitly acknowledge that Appendix B is entirely grounded in King's concepts and language, instead passing it off as her own original work.
This comes as...
Oof. Okay, so there's going to play clips of the hearing, which we've already seen. So let's just skip ahead. Let's see how the discussion of this goes. Okay.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So how does Brianna Joy Gray feel about this situation?
Right.
Someone being called out for plagiarism. That's horrible, right?
Plagiarism. Wow. I mean, especially if you're a president of a college, right? Like, of all the places that are like supposed to take plagiarism the most serious, it's generally colleges.
Yeah, you would think the president was some sort of avatar for proper behavior in the college, right?
Yes.
An example, an exemplar for students to look to. How should I do my thesis? Well, I plagiarize. That's how I get it done.
I mean,
the old-fashioned way, I cheat.
It's really bad for your thesis statement, like specifically. That's like really bad, right?
Oh, yeah.
So.
The Penn Board of Trustees announced on Saturday that McGill would be stepping down as president, but will remain a tenured faculty member.
So, starting with these allegations against Claudine Gay, I looked through what Christopher Rufo had assembled. It looks pretty bad to me. Several instances of there is attribution in places, but of the same phrasing being used far too frequently. If that happens every now and then, but that's quite a few examples of that.
How is this not goalpost shifting from Christopher Rufo? Why do you think there's a sudden interest in Roxane Gay's award-winning thesis? I should note that she attended after Phillips Exeter Academy. She went to Stanford University, majored in economics, where she won the Anna Laura Myers Prize for Best Undergraduate Thesis in Economics and graduated in 92, and then earned her PhD in 98 from Harvard, where she also won the university's Topin Prize for Best Dissertation in Political Science. Why do you
Oof. Oh, my goodness.
Was that the thesis that she plagiarized?
I know that's
a different one.
That's my question. So she plagiarizes the thesis and then she wins all these awards?
I don't know, because she said it was her I don't know. She said she got an award for her undergraduate and her graduate thesis, right? So, I mean, I don't know. She got it. I mean, that even makes it worse, doesn't it?
Yeah. Look, she's definitely trying to help out President Gay here. Her award-winning thesis. What is goalpost shifting? What does that mean, Sitch? What does someone mean when they say that? Yeah.
Goalpost shifting is when, like, if we were having a conversation about, if I said, like, listen, Adam, you're really bad because you never do the dishes, right? And then you said, that's not true, Sitch. I did the dishes yesterday. And then I realized you did do the dishes, and I said, oh, well, okay, maybe you did the dishes, but you didn't take out the trash.
Right. Okay. There we go.
I'm changing whatever the original point of the argument was to something else.
Right. And she's making that accusation of Christopher Rufo here. Like Christopher Rufo has some other goal, but now he's shifted to this plagiarism charge.
Well, it's not really. So it's like, that's the wrong term. Okay. It's not goalpost shifting. Obviously, what's going on is Christopher Rufo and other people want her fired because she's hyper woke.
Right.
And this has kind of become like another battle for the culture war, which I agree. This is an important battle for the culture war. And if she gets fired, it's going to seem to be a feather in the cap of the forces pushing back against wokeness. And so Christopher Rufo and other people are saying, okay, well, we just want to get her fired by basically any means necessary. So if the Harvard board is not willing to fire her for her horrible responses that she gave at Congress, well, maybe if we dig into her, we can find some other reason that they'd want to have to fire her for. And, plagiarism is a pretty good thing, pretty good reason to get her, removed from her position.
Yeah. That's right. So the goalpost shifting is not really what's going on here. They're just trying to
digging up dirt to try to get someone in trouble.
Right. They're trying to accumulate a body of evidence here.
Right.
That focuses on the same goal.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Okay.
I think that he is interested now in scrutinizing her academic record.
Well, I'm less interested in why he's doing it and more interested in the fact that the president of Harvard violated the academic standards to which the students are held.
That's so interesting to me, because I'm so much more interested in why at the time when there is a right-wing pogrom against free speech at campus universities, specifically in defense of a country that's in the middle of a genocide, why there would be a sudden interest in the background of a university president. To me, that seems obviously connected. And as reflected in the fact that we've packaged them together in the segment.
How do you feel about using the word pogrom to describe, this we shouldn't be allowing people to, say certain things in certain protests on college campuses?
Well, Sitch, I don't like it at all, actually. I brought up the definition of the word pogrom here.
Yeah, okay.
And pogrom means an organized massacre of a particular ethnic group. In particular, that of Jewish people in Russia or Eastern Europe in the late 19th and 20th century. So she's saying this is a right-wing ethnic massacre. What is up with that framing? What's going on here, Sitch? Is that not the most incendiary thing you've ever heard?
It's pretty bad. I think it's like she's trying to find a substitute people were saying that like what Israel's doing right now is a Holocaust or something. They're trying to compare it to like the Holocaust. And so it feels overused maybe. So she's trying to find a substitute. So she's like, pogrom, that's kind of like a lesser Holocaust, right? So
Is it?
I mean, so the Republicans are doing a lesser Holocaust on free speech on college campuses, which, by the way, is completely ironically absurd, considering for the last, 6, 7 years, we've been seeing all these massive speech restrictions on college campuses coming from the woke left.
Yeah, who's doing the pogrom here, Sitch? Who's the one that wants to stamp out all free speech?
Right. I mean, and I wouldn't even use the word pogrom for the woke stuff. I mean, it doesn't seem appropriate,
It doesn't.
I think we should delineate, people clamping down on free speech and like people running around trying to exterminate people because of their ethnic group or their religion. So I'm not a fan of it at all. But I mean, and so we're already seeing that Brianna is. Now, here's interesting. Brianna didn't acknowledge. Okay, she didn't say like, okay, Claudine Gay, she plagiarized this stuff. That's wrong, and she should be fired for it. Period. However, we should acknowledge like why this is happening. Like she didn't even give that first sentence. She just did the immediately, I'm not going to acknowledge anything about what she did, whether it's right or wrong. I'm just going to say, well, this is just Christopher Rufo. Why is he doing this? He's just doing this for evil, nefarious Christopher Rufo reasons. Yeah,
I despise that. I think obviously politics and science are both a system of institutional disconfirmation. So you've got one side that's basically trying to find fault in the other side's arguments. So it's really not Christopher Rufo's job to be a referee or to look at the indiscretions on his own side. He's supposed to be pointing out the indiscretions on your side. But the argument that Brianna Joy Gray is making here is that, Rufo has some sort of nefarious motives here. Like he's only motivated by political gain. Well, yes, that's the game that you're literally playing, the game of politics.
Mm-hmm.
So that is his motivation, but there's nothing wrong with that motivation.
Well, I mean, if he's just pointing out stuff that people on the left are doing that are wrong, and he's correct that they're doing this thing and it's wrong, then yeah, that's totally fine. I would only say it would be wrong if he was fabricating things that were untrue, or he was running, fake defense of his side of the right. Right. But that's not even what she's talking about. She's not accusing him of doing that here. She's just saying, well, because his motivations are, rooted in his political ideology, that somehow means that the claim is wrong, I guess.
Well, I guess, yeah. So what she's inferring here, and she can't really just come right out and say this because she knows the claims are actually accurate. What she's saying here is, well, there's room to question the veracity of these claims because we know Christopher Rufo is motivated by partisanship.
I mean, she's not even really questioning the veracity of the claim, though.
Look, she can't do that.
Right.
That's because she knows the claims are true.
Right.
So she's saying because Christopher Rufo is so partisanly motivated,
yeah,
you can probably assume that these claims might not be true. Right. And that's why she's pivoting.
Yeah.
That's why she's pivoting to this.
Right.
Okay, so what are you saying? We can't hold someone accountable for violating the academic standards of the university?
Of course, but I think it's an interesting question as to why
We're going to impute
that someone
the motives of.
I think it's an interesting question why Christopher Rufo, for example, is interested in interrogating the academic record and closely reading the 20-year-old record thesis of someone like Claudine Gay, but not interested in ever commenting, as far as I know, on the plagiarism accusations that have come on someone like Alan Dershowitz, which Norm Finkelstein, who has talked at
You like Robbie's laugh there.
Robbie, totally, yes.
The laugh of the absurdity of this situation.
The reason he's laughing at this is because he realizes it's not Christopher Rufo's job to comment on the indiscretions on his side. That's your job, Brianna.
Mm-hmm.
That's your job. You're like, why isn't Christopher calling out his own side because this is a game. He's trying to get to one side of the field and you're trying to get to the other side. And what you're saying is, well, why doesn't he turn around and kick the ball towards his end?
I mean, it's a weird thing because, I kind of like briefly looked into these accusations against Alan Dershowitz about plagiarism.
Yes.
Which come from our good friend Norman Finkelstein.
Right, who we're totally suspicious of already. Look,
Right.
I'm not a big Dershowitz fan or a big Finkelstein fan, so I'm not.
We have two old white Jews, Alan Dershowitz, who's like insanely pro-Israel, and Norman Finkelstein, who's insanely anti-Israel, and I don't really trust either of their opinions on anything regarding the subject matter. But it's weird that she brings this up. This is like a super reach because this happened in 2005 that they were arguing about this plagiarism thing. Okay. It's the year 2023. Like,
right.
I don't know.
Like almost 20 years ago.
Right. I don't know why, but like, what does it have to do with now? How old was Christopher Rufo in 2005? I don't even know how old he was back then. Like, why is he supposed to comment on this thing now? Like, that has nothing to do with him. If you ask him about it, and he had a comment about it, sure, I guess you could talk about that. But why just randomly bring this up out of the blue for no reason other than to try to like make it seem like he's a hypocrite, I guess? You just sort of reaching for someone supposedly on the right, even though Alan Dershowitz is like not, been on the right classically for a long time, to hit him with this plagiarism accusation. And by the way, I looked into this and it's like not even clear. No one has ever made it clear. It has never been cleared up one way or the other, whether the accusations Norman made against Alan Dershowitz were accurate or not.
Yeah, and I mean, Rufo looks like he's in his 30s. He might have been 15 years old when these claims came out in 2005.
Yeah, right.
It's just it's ridiculous that she's pivoting to this partisanship angle.
Right.
Like, we can't trust him because he's a partisan. When you're looking at one of the most partisan people on the internet here, Brianna Joy Gray, who is just,
yeah.
I mean, this is a ridiculously partisan argument. She's not even willing to address the fact of the initial claim.
Yeah. Yes. Acknowledge the claim. Say that what she did was wrong if she did it, and then you can talk about motives afterwards or something if you want. But to just immediately shift into that is obviously what about?
Yeah. Maybe bad faith.
Oh, it's like a bad faith podcast.
Exactly.
At length about this. There's a very famous clip of the two of them debating this head-to-head on Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman, called into question. It's very similar kinds of citation errors, non-attribution in the case of Alan Dershowitz in his book, I believe it's called A Defense of Israel. So the question is, yes, why is there a selective interest in these kinds of things that is imputing the qualifications of folks, and is it politically motivated?
Why would having to take an issue on a totally unrelated, separate plagiarism issue that I've heard of the Alan Dershowitz thing. I'm not personally familiar, so there'd be no way for me to take a position on it because I haven't looked into what the merit of the allegations is. This has nothing to do with that, and we're talking about the standards of the president of the university.
Well,
I find it interesting that apparently the vetting of these things is so lax that no one would have noticed it until now. But you're saying this is off the table because we haven't investigated a years old, a totally unrelated thing.
It's not about we and us. It's
you like his face. He's just such a good face. He's like, what? What are you talking about? This is ridiculous.
They should change the name of the show to Robbie versus Partisan Hack, because that's basically what this show has devolved into.
Yes, essentially.
Why is Christopher Rufo, who's been very clear about what his political objectives are, right? He has said very openly about what he endeavored to do with coining the term wokeness and making focusing attacks on something called critical race theory, a term that most people in America had never heard of before. He specifically said it is easier to get people mad at something called critical race theory than saying that very explicitly we shouldn't be talking about race or diversity or historical.
You see Robbie's doing this, like, look at his body language. He's like slowly backing away from her, like making this like face of confusion and disgust.
He's slipping off into the bushes here. He's like, what am I doing on this show?
Comedy of this is amazing.
He keeps waiting for her to respond to the actual claim.
Oh, it's so good. Look at his face.
That is contempt right there. This marriage is on the rocks, Sitch. I don't think this marriage lasts another 6 months. I'm telling you.
Prejudice against groups. Obviously, that doesn't come across as well. So we're going to say, no, we're going to use all these acronyms. I mean, he very much has a political agenda. And so I do think it would be naive to talk about a subject like this without engaging with what his obvious political project is here. And it seems to me that they're rightly or wrongly, whether or not Claudine Gay transgressed, the reason he is interested in her particular transgression seems to have everything to do with a desire to get a bunch of presidents of universities fired because they don't agree with Christopher Rufo's particular set of politics. And I don't know that that is in service of the free speech objectives that I hold, and I think a lot of people in the world and in the audience hold.
Okay, well, I don't think she should be fired for not agreeing politically with Chris Rufo, but I do think she should be, in the same way that Harvard students would be disciplined, subject to a investigation or a hearing where they have the right to represent their own interests and push back, would be held accountable for those. I mean, this isn't really about policy on some level. This is about.
Let's play that out.
Just to address the motivation claim that she's making here, because it's driving me insane. Mm-hmm. It's like the whole idea that he's partisanly motivated. It's like, yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
Yes.
Yeah, duh.
Yeah.
Your job when somebody makes this attack is to judge the reality of the claim. Is it true or false? Questioning the motivation. Look, we're in a game of politics. The motivation is obvious to everyone playing the game.
Right.
It's just so bizarre to me.
Well, and it's funny too, the irony of it all, because she's kind of trying to whataboutism detract away from the accusation against Claudine Gay
she knows
here.
It's true,
right? By attacking Christopher Rufo's motives when she's doing literally the same thing he's doing. She's only defending Claudine Gay and attacking Christopher Rufo because it suits her politics. She's doing the exact thing that she's criticizing Christopher Rufo for doing.
Yes, the irony event horizon has been crossed, Sitch. We are approaching the irony singularity now. It's just, it's so bothersome to me. It's like, let me state the obvious long enough to throw you off the scent that, she lied, okay?
Right. And I think the way that, Robbie should handle this, I think he does eventually in the clip, but the way he should handle it from the beginning is to just be like, yeah, it's for political reasons, so what?
Yes, exactly.
So what? That doesn't address the issue. Like, should the president of an Ivy League school that's often thought of as the top Ivy League school in the entire country, if not in the entire world, should the president of that college be a person who had, large sections of their academic work and own thesis plagiarized? Who cares what their politics are? That you're not supposed to do that.
Well, and does it serve your political interest to have a person of color who's the head of Harvard that has these accusations against them? Doesn't that completely play into this negative stereotype about
the diversity hire?
Diversity hire. Yeah, exactly.
Definitely does.
This is against your political interest, Brianna. You should be upset about this.
Nah.
So if this is the standard, I think that what we should do is go back through every member of Harvard faculty. And by the way, Harvard's not the only school in America. It's interesting that these conservatives seem to have this obsession with elite universities when most people don't go to those. And it almost seems disrespectful to the experience that most Americans have to act like Harvard's the only place in the world. I mean,
yeah, those conservatives who are disrespecting everyone. Well, at least she didn't say pogrom. At least she's only said pogrom once in this video.
Those evil Republicans pogroming free speech on college campuses.
Right.
Christopher Rufo went there, maybe that's why. But to go through the people who are on faculty at all universities, use this new software we have with ChatGPT and things like that, and see if there's any examples like that, and then fire everybody, or at least have everybody come under review, including someone like Alan Dershowitz.
This is the most pathetic. See, it's so funny. She talks about shifting the goalpost. This is the most pathetic goalpost, weird shifting, technique I've ever seen. She's like, listen, before we can impugn, whether Claudine Gay should be fired for plagiarism, we have to test every single professor
yeah,
in
exactly.
the entire country to see if they've plagiarized too. That's the only way we could do this. Like, what the hell are you talking about?
Is she trying to make the argument that if they are all plagiarists, we just let them all go?
I don't know. That's like, listen, we caught this person. Okay, we caught this person stealing.
Right.
Should we put them in jail? It's like, whoa. Until we catch every person in the entire country who's ever stolen anything, we can't put this one person in jail for stealing.
Well, it wouldn't be fair, Sitch, obviously.
Like, what the hell are you talking about?
This is bonkers.
Yes.
So
Would that be fair?
I have no problem with that. It seems like you're the one saying that we can't do anything about this or
Absolutely
can't care
not.
about this or have any interest in this because you cannot find examples where some person that you don't like politically was not.
It's not the issue about whether they like him politically. It's the issue of whether or not people are selectively going after folks because of their politics, as opposed to actually having a sincere interest in upholding an academic standard. If it's about going back to
the allegations against Dershowitz, which again I have no idea about, it could be accurate or not. You don't think those were motivated by some political disinterest in what he's doing?
Oh,
there were no political motives from Norm Finkelstein or whoever brought that up. That's transparently ridiculous.
I'm happy to answer the question.
Okay.
It is. Look, don't let her get away with this. It is transparently ridiculous.
You see how mad she was?
Yeah, she's pissed.
God.
Look, she talks over him and totally gets away with it, but like
I know.
Yeah.
Oh my God. The way she said, I'm happy to answer that question. Oh my God. That was like the most passive aggressive, like, I'm going to punch you in the face.
This is contempt.
Like, listen to the way she said that. It was so good.
Political disinterest in what he's doing?
Oh,
there were no political motives from Norm Finkelstein or whoever brought that up? That's transparently ridiculous.
I'm happy to answer the question.
Okay.
She did not like that. Look, half of this video, I've been saying her argument is transparently ridiculous. So I'm very happy to hear that Robbie's saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Because it is ridiculous.
Well, he already kneecapped her entire argument. Because, first of all, I mean, what he brought up is a great point, which is like, yeah, obviously Norman Finkelstein, who's incredibly anti-Israel, is going after Alan Dershowitz because of the politics of the situation.
Yeah. Of course.
Obviously, that's the motivation here. And he said it's completely ridiculous to say otherwise. So now when Brianna is about to argue otherwise, she looks ridiculous.
Institutional disconfirmation. It works exactly the same way in science and in politics. You're going to have different people on different teams who are trying to prove the other one's wrong.
Look at Robbie's face here. It's so good.
I know. Robbie is like... I'm telling
Norm Finkelstein's political motives are that he is the global utmost scholar on Gaza, the history of Gaza and what's been going on there for the last 75 years. And that as a scholar of Gaza, he read Alan Dershowitz's work, which makes an opposite case for Israel's legitimacy to its behavior in that region. And because he literally is a scholar of that area of work, he could discern mistakes, errors, and less plagiarism in the context of his work. So he had obviously a very pointed, I would call it an academic interest as opposed to political interest. But yes, he is literally a scholar of...
Did you hear that? That was Robbie laughing in disbelief. Okay.
She's delusional. She's fully delusional here.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, her argument is this is the most BS argument ever. Like,
we're supposed to be talking about the plagiarism of the current hour. Now she's got us talking about some plagiarism from 20 years ago. Right.
But even yes, that is true. She completely changed the subject. But even her argument for changing the subject is insane. She can't even sit there and admit that Norman Finkelstein obviously was going after Dershowitz, regardless of whether Dershowitz deserved it or not, was going after him for political reasons. She can't even admit that. This is what was insane about the Hassan Ethan conversation. She literally is one of these people who you cannot have a good faith conversation with about anything because she will never cede any point or any ground at any time in the conversation. She'll just fight every single possible claim to the point of insanity.
I'm not even sure she's capable of tracking the arguments at this point. Like she's so partisan brained.
Right.
She doesn't even really know what they're talking about here.
Right. Oh, listen to Robbie laugh. He's just like, so like what?
As opposed to political interest. But yes, he is literally a scholar of Palestinian history. And as Norm Finkelstein always says, I follow the facts. I'm interested in the facts in that way that he has. And that's where the facts took him. So yeah, regardless.
And Christopher Rufo would just come out and say, I don't care about the facts. Come on. Everyone says they follow the facts.
Right.
It doesn't mean that they're nonpartisan. It doesn't mean that they're not partisanly motivated. Just this is delusional.
Right.
Go ahead. What do you want to say?
Well, it's also, I mean, I don't trust you. You literally have to be an idiot to trust Norman as some sort of objective referee of facts regarding Israel and Palestine. I mean, this is a guy who was saying, oh, it's an open air prison concentration camp, so therefore I can't denounce Hamas killing and raping people on October 7th. I mean, you're like, okay, that's the guy that we're supposed to look at as like some arbiter scholar of truth. Like, get out of here. You're like insane.
He only cares about the facts.
I only care about the facts. That's why I was like cheering when October 7th first happened. I was cheering about it. I mean, listen, I didn't realize how bad it was. At first, I thought they only killed like 50 or 100 people. And I thought, like, that's great. Wonderful. But then I found out they killed way more people and it looked really bad. I'm like, oh, I don't know. Maybe it's bad. I can't condemn them, but, whatever.
What is this voice?
I can't. He sounds like Roger Rabbit. I can't do his Roger Rabbit voice.
I feel like you're doing a Muppet here.
He sounds like a Muppet. He looks like a Muppet.
All right, let's finish this video up.
Regardless of whatever politics, maybe Roxanne Gay is her cousin. Claudia Gay is out.
Is that for real? Is
Wait,
that for real?
Is that for real? Roxanne Gay?
Yeah, we've covered Roxanne Gay on the show.
Wait a minute.
Roxanne Gay is a giant,
feminist
activist. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, super activist feminist lady.
Look at this. They're keeping it in the family.
Oh my! Wait, are they related? Holy crap! They are.
How is that?
That's hilarious.
How is that not for political patronage there?
Oh my God.
They're
ridiculous. Cousins. I mean, yeah. I guess we should have figured like two super woke activists, both the last name Gay. Like, what are the odds of that?
Is that not nepotism? Is that not nepotism or what?
That's hilarious. Oh my God.
And maybe a bunch of other people are out too. But I am, of course, discomforted. It's just like stop and frisk. When you stop and frisk people, sometimes you find people who are breaking the law, and you can say, well, they shouldn't have broken the law. But if I am selectively posting a police officer outside of your house and nobody else's, or in somebody's neighborhood but not somebody else's, and make it so they're much more likely to be caught up in the law, that is a problem, right?
Now she's making the argument that we're only interrogating the theses of black people.
Someone made a joke on Twitter. I don't remember who it was. They tweeted out as a joke, sarcastically, they're like, listen, it's time that we acknowledge that checking for plagiarism and the rules for plagiarism, disproportionately affect non-white minorities and therefore are part of the systemic oppression of colored people in America.
She's not.
And she just made that argument for realsies right now.
I know, it's insane. They're not checking because she's black. They're checking because she has a tremendous amount of power. Yeah, exactly. Nobody checked before this congressional hearing came up.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's naive to say Christopher Rufo is using something fundamentally different from what Norm Finkelstein did there. It's scrutiny for political purpose of someone who maybe committed the crime, and that we should evaluate it based on. We don't need to get into the motives because we can see Christopher Rufo.
We don't need to get into the motives, Robbie. Do you think that the effort to oust all of these presidents is a good thing and in furtherance of free speech objectives?
I think ousting a president for committing academic infractions that are important at the university that would apply to the students there is a perfectly valid method.
And do you think that the timing of Christopher Rufo looking into Claudine Gay, so you don't care, but I'm okay.
Look how condescending she's being. Like, it's wild. She interrupts him constantly. Never lets him finish like a point or a sentence. And then she's so condescending. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Jeez.
Look, he's completely right. It is irrelevant.
Yes.
It is stupid of you to even bring it up. It is stupid of you to devote 10 minutes of this segment to something that is just everybody knows and understands the game that we're playing here.
Right.
Oh, it's so infuriating.
It's obviously no. Christopher Rufo has existed his whole life. Roxanne Gay.
Look, she's saying it's obviously politically motivated. Yes. How many times do I have to say yes? Yes, you are correct. Yes, that's true. You dumb person. It is politically motivated and irrelevant.
Yeah.
Has been president for, I think, a year. She's fairly recent, but for, I think, a year or so. And no one has ever had any interest in any of these things. And Christopher Rufo does not have a broad interest in whether or not many people at Harvard University or other universities have violated academic policies. Is quite clearly
does Norm
trying to
have
find...
a broad interest. Again, it's the same thing. It was a dispute with one person, and if there's there's truth to the allegations, then they should be dealt with, regardless of the motivations of the person.
Let's go through all of the presidents and all of the faculty members at Harvard University.
Okay, we don't have to wait to do anything about Claudine Gay until that happens.
I think that we do actually have to wait because there's a question of whether academic standards are going to be held up for everyone or disproportionately because there is a right-wing pogrom against free speech.
No, academic standards are being for the students at Harvard.
Happening at Harvard University and other elite universities because they're increasingly trying to make it stigmatized, if not illegal, to be critical of an independent state on the globe called Israel.
Okay,
this
well,
is
listen,
so infuriating.
I'm glad that she's acknowledged that she's a huge fucking hypocrite. Okay,
yeah.
Because she's like, Christopher Rufo is only doing this because he's motivated by political reasons. And let me explain to you why he shouldn't be able to do it because I'm motivated by political reasons.
Exactly.
She just laid it all out. And she's so ignorant. She has such an NPC brain. She has no self-awareness. So she has no clue how she just laid out her entire political bias here, looking like a massive hypocrite to the entire world by saying all this.
Yeah, it's infuriating and insane. Just like, oh, look, we can't do anything about this until we interrogate every single academic in the entire world.
Right. And you know what? I bet you, because she's like, we need to interrogate every single person to see if they have committed plagiarism before we can act on this, which is an absurd position. It makes no fucking sense, right?
Well, it does from the collectivist perspective, because what she's hinting at here is, look, we're going to find out that a bunch of white people did plagiarism too. I don't think that's what's
going on. I think she's doing it because she knows it's like such an unruly thing that it would never happen.
She wouldn't have made the argument about she wouldn't have made the arrest argument if the police is outside. She's basically saying.
Right.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, it's funny because, I'm sure Christopher Rufo learned from this. He's like, this is genius. Whenever I'm complaining about some woke academic somewhere, I should check to see if they plagiarized a bunch of stuff. Like Christopher Rufo is probably like, oh, I got to check all these guys to see if they plagiarized. Listen, Joy Gray, Christopher Rufo, he's already like, I bet you like 10 steps ahead on this one. I bet you he's checking every single woke person he can to see if they plagiarized.
Yeah, well, it's your job to check the other academics, but good luck finding a conservative academic in 2023.
Yeah, there's like 5.
Yeah, it's going to take you a weekend.
Right.
That is, of course, at what spawned me. When we had the Red Scare and the pogroms in the mid part of the last...
Oh my God, how many times is she going to say pogrom?
It's wild.
Century, and actors getting kicked out of Hollywood. There were any number of pretexts used to minimize people's free speech, to kick them off of apps, to fire them from their jobs. And I'm sorry, Robbie, it is short-sighted to say, well, I don't happen to like this person. Oh, there's a legitimacy here to this claim. Therefore, they should be ousted, when we have nothing but historical record after historical record of people using pretexts to accomplish their censorious
This is not a pretext, and it's not about censorship. She's the president of the university. It's an academic position. These are academic standards to which students and professors are held, and she should be held to it like anyone else. It's not about policy. It's not about her free speech policy. Like anyone else.
Okay, so then let's say I would...
Here's what I would ask her. Well, first of all, before I bring up the fact that she's being a rampant hypocrite in this situation, I'd ask her, what if Claudine Gay killed and ate somebody? Okay. Christopher Rufo finds out that she regularly adopts orphans to eat, to kill and eat, right? Do we say, well, listen, I mean, that's pretty heinous. But Christopher Rufo, he's only going after her because he doesn't agree with her politics. So I guess we can't, try her for murder and cannibalism.
That's a great
until
point.
we investigate every other professor on Harvard College campus to find out, whether they also did this.
That question just unmasks how ridiculous this whole exchange is. Look, and she has talked 90% of the time here.
I know. And every time she opens her mouth, it just gets worse.
Yeah, it's insane.
I agree with that if that standard were applied to everyone and there was a fulsome review of all of the other professors at Harvard and these other institutions, given that now we have the software, which I'm sure Rufo used, to go back.
It is applied to students, and if students are caught doing these things, they get in trouble.
Bobby, let me finish the sentence. If there's a fulsome review of all of the other theses of all the other faculty members that can now be done quite quickly. I mean, I'm not surprised that people don't catch all of these things because it's difficult to. And as someone, I have friends now that are teachers that are dealing with this ChatGPT stuff, and all they do now is try to find these mistakes. So let's use the software that we have, go back through all the theses, and then have a conversation about what we want to do holistically when we discover exactly how many instances of this come up.
How is this not full collectivist brain, Sitch? She's basically saying we can't do anything until we know how the problem relates to each individual group.
Right.
Like until we look at every single thesis and we categorize how many people of color have cheated and how many white people have cheated.
Yeah.
And we know those numbers, then we know exactly how to proceed. This is just like equity brain.
It is. And she's doing a Hail Mary play here where she's banking on hoping, praying.
Yes.
That like they're going to put all the Harvard professors. Yeah.
All the Asians have been plagiarizing for years.
Yes. That like they're going to put all the Harvard professors, thesis papers through the ChatGPT checker, and they're all going to show up. Oh, like 90% of them all, plagiarized. So she could be like, look, everyone does it. So therefore it's okay, I guess. Like that's what she's praying for.
What if it comes back and just the black professors are the plagiarists?
Oh my God. It's over at that point. Oh.
We need to bury this report as soon as possible.
It's funny because, like, I mean, your response to us is like, okay, I don't care if they do all that. Like, they could literally throw out every professor at Harvard. Why would I care about that? They probably should throw out every professor at Harvard. Like, okay, I call your bluff here, lady.
Look, I'm not sure this is really necessary. Like, if someone has a PhD and they're like a barista at Starbucks.
Check their thesis, Adam.
No,
check it.
I just look.
Starbucks should be checking every person's thesis for plagiarism before they hire them.
This is why this is such a stupid argument to make. They're checking her thesis because she's the president of Harvard. Okay? She's in a high position of authority. If somebody writes their thesis on feminist glacial studies and is working at Starbucks today, I don't care if they plagiarize. Nobody cares.
Well, there's a real practical consideration here that hasn't been brought up, which is that, how can you hold any students accountable for plagiarism if the president of the school is not accountable for plagiarism?
Oh, that's an excellent point. Yes, exactly. Oh, man. This is insane.
And is Claudine Gay going to be held accountable uniquely, perhaps because of her views on Israel or because of her willingness to uphold the academic policy that it does not prohibit critical speech of Israel? Or
this is not about speech on Israel. It's just not. It's just not. It's about academic standards.
Why are you resisting the idea of waiting until we do a holistic review of all of the professors? We can do a holistic
review of her. She shouldn't be like willy-nilly fired on the spot. There should be a academic committee or someone should impartially look at this, and she can say rigorously read the Harvard standards. I'm not saying like fire on the spot, but no, it's not because we have to wait for other people to be. That's
Robbie,
just excuse making. That's excuse making for bad academic behavior.
So
that's all it is.
Get it.
Yes.
If they were to apply the ChatGPT software and find out that, I wouldn't be surprised about this, if 30% of all theses had some version of this, where there's a citation, but the rephrasing of the thing they're citing and characterizing it doesn't do enough to like mix up the words and find synonyms for words and to rephrase it.
Yes.
If you found that a substantial chunk of students and faculty, make up a number, I don't care what it is, 25, 30, 40%, had at least one instance of that in their theses, would that affect your feeling about what kind of course of action should be taken against the 30% of Harvard graduates, 30% of Harvard professors?
So this is a really good example of leftist brain rot in terms of equality and collectivism, kind of like you're saying.
It is fully collectivism.
Right. Because like Brianna, I don't know if you know this, but the president of the university should be held to the highest standard.
Yes.
I don't care if the kids are doing it. First of all, if any teacher is doing this, that should have repercussions, okay, obviously. But the person that should have the highest repercussions is the president. You're supposed to be I'm a lefty, I want to flatten hierarchies, blah, 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 blah person. Okay, the whole point, the whole reason the president makes the big bucks, the president's the one in charge of everything, is because they're supposed to be held to the highest standard. You don't get to say, well, if other people are doing bad things, and the president gets to get away with it.
Yeah, look, this argument is so ridiculous. It's like, okay, if we find out that 30% of the population regularly shoplifts, does that mean shoplifting is okay? We should just say, oh, let's make shoplifting legal. Everyone does it. Like, what is the argument here? Look, if they find out the extent of the problem is horrific, yes, heads need to roll. Things need to happen. Things need to change. It doesn't mean, okay, well, look, everyone's doing it. We let the president of Harvard get away with it because, whoopsie, look, everyone does it. No, I can't believe she's making this argument, Sitch. What's going on here? She's lost her mind.
That would be implicated in this.
No, they should be disciplined for that. And now let's be
disciplined how?
Like one or an occasion, like one example of a paraphrase is not. Well, this was more than one. There was a number of
two. We talked about two.
Well, he has a whole thread of a number of examples. We just talked about two, but there's more.
Oh no!
I mean, this is something a committee should weigh.
Oh, no.
At what point does it
see
become?
The Swain part that we talked about, and I saw that first long paragraph, and he breaks parts of them down and talks about them at length. But I see two instances in this award-winning thesis that's described here in this Rufo thing.
It was
article.
In this award-winning thesis.
Award-winning thesis. You like how she keeps saying that?
That makes it even worse. I don't know why she keeps saying that.
Well, she's trying to be like, look how good this thesis was, okay? And
this stolen thesis is amazing. It should win all kinds of awards for the person that actually wrote it.
I mean, it was a couple different. No, it was a couple different phrases.
In two paragraphs.
Yeah.
Okay. and this award-winning thesis. So if the de minimis instance like this, where there's two paragraphs that have not been sufficiently rewritten, comes up in a significant number of other theses, what would you have happen?
Whatever the appropriate.
Look, the fact that she's tying it to other theses is just completely stupid. Like she should have argued that this isn't that bad. It's only two instances. If that's the argument that she wants to make, that argument is at least goes with what's happening in this situation.
Right. At least she's acknowledging this thing. But even that, I'd say, listen, maybe, if she was just a, random professor, right? Could say, okay, there's some disciplinary action here. But she's not. She's the president. Okay. The president should have 0 instances of plagiarism. 0. Okay.
Yeah, you're never going to get past that. And
you're the president of Harvard. You should have 0 pieces of plagiarism.
Just my final thought, and then we'll wrap it up. To the plagiarism charge where she copied a whole paragraph of somebody else's work is much more severe than where normally you just paraphrase what it is and you cite the work. You say, this is from this author or whatever. So copying word for word and not citing the author is like the worst form of plagiarism. So that's my final thought. What do you have any final thoughts?
Brianna Greyjoy's brain has melted.
Okay. Hi, you just listened to a Sitch and Adam recorded video. That's right. We're doing Monday through Friday deep dive recorded videos now. And of course, we're still doing our live streams. Our live streams are on Sunday and Tuesday starting at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. And you can super chat us or you can join the channel. Subscribe to this channel right here to watch the live show or watch more of our awesome deep dive videos.